Hey everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome to Hale. In the month of January, I will be reviewing the year 2020 and all the movies that I watched. In this video particularly, I'm going to be talking about my 10 favorite first-time Criterion watches of the year. But before I get started on my Criterion ranking, I want to turn your attention to the last video that I made, which was ranking my 10 favorite first-time watches of the year 2020. That list didn't include any Criterions purposely so that I could talk about all my favorite Criterions in this video. But if you're still curious about what movies really caught my eye in 2020, I would recommend watching that video as well. And if you're new to the channel, thank you for clicking on this video. Let me know what your favorite first-time watches were from the Criterion Collection of 2020. Number 10 goes to Here Comes Mr. Jordan. If you've been following my Criterion hauls with Nick, I'm pretty sure that I picked this one up at the July sale of this year. It's just such a sweet movie. It's very heartwarming. Claude Rains normally plays villainous roles, and in this movie he's just so enjoyable and you can't help but love him, and he has like such a warming smile, plus the movie is pretty funny too. I also liked seeing the boxing in this movie because we've seen so many boxing films, but it's pretty rare, for me at least, to see boxing done in a black and white film. All around, Here Comes Mr. Jordan was just really enjoyable. A really sweet, heartwarming movie that was actually pretty funny too. Spellbound is a movie from the Criterion Collection that actually doesn't have a Blu-ray release, but it does have a DVD release, and I wish so bad it would get a Blu-ray upgrade because I love Spellbound. In the month of August, I devoted the entire month to Alfred Hitchcock's filmography. With this month being dedicated to him, there were a lot of first-time watches. I watched 15 new Alfred Hitchcock movies this year, and Spellbound was amongst my favorites. It's such a creative movie, and when I say that, I'm talking about specifically a dream sequence that takes place. You're told a story and it goes along with the dream sequence, but the way they film that dream sequence is so well done. It's very mysterious and totally feels like something that you would see in the Twilight Zone in years to come, and it just feels unique. It feels very obscure, and I loved it so much. I felt like I went from an Alfred Hitchcock film to a Twilight Zone episode, which is an amazing thing to experience. At number 8, I have The Great Escape. I watched this movie for my 24-hour movie marathon that I did earlier this year, which that within itself was such a fun marathon to do. This movie in particular fulfilled the requirement of a movie that's 170 minutes or longer, and I was a little hesitant to watch it for the marathon because I was nervous that it would be a slow-moving war film, but it ended being anything but that. I was expecting maybe the last 30 minutes to be the escape, but the entire movie, they are planning the escape. It's not like 30 minutes in, they're like, all right, we got to escape. The whole entire movie, they are planning the escape, and then when they actually do go through with the escape, it's a nail-biting sequence to watch. The Great Escape is very enjoyable to watch, and I'm glad that I watched it for my 24-hour movie marathon. At number 7, I have another movie with great in the title, but this time it is The Great Dictator, starring Charlie Chaplin. This is a movie that I've been meaning to watch for years, and I finally watched it in the month of June. If I remember right, I think it came as a recommendation from you guys. It was for my ranking your movie recommendations video that I did, and I really enjoyed this movie. Charlie Chaplin's humor is kind of hit and miss with me. Sometimes his gags are hilarious, other times they're a little annoying, I'm not gonna lie. But even if I don't always laugh at Charlie Chaplin's gags here and there, I can't deny that The Great Dictator has a beautiful message to it. If you don't watch this movie, at least do me a favor and look up the speech from The Great Dictator. It's on YouTube, but it is so inspirational and you can apply it to today as well. That's what made The Great Dictator as good of a movie as it was for me. Solaris is a movie that is just shy of 3 hours. It was directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, and it is a slow burner, and so if you are going to watch this movie, I highly recommend that you mentally prepare yourself for it. Yes, the runtime is long, but it is so worth it. Basically, there's a space station, and it's sending off weird signals, and so they send a psychiatrist up to the space station to look at what's going on, to make sure that the crew's doing well and that no accidents have happened. And that's all I'm gonna say because it's a pretty mysterious movie and I wanna keep it that way. There's a shot in this film though that I really like. It shows two characters that are in love and they just float in space together and they're embracing each other. That sequence in particular was really cool to watch. Coming in at number 5, I have Harold and Maude. This movie is so obscure. It felt like a mix of The Graduate and Better Off Dead, but at the same time, it definitely stands on its own as its own signature film. This movie is hilarious, it's romantic, it's strange, and honestly, it's pretty sad too. If you like quirky films that are pretty obscure and a little strange, you will love Harold and Maude. At number 4, I have another movie that I watched in my 24-hour movie marathon, and this one ended up being my favorite watch of the entire marathon, and that movie is In the Heat of the Night. In the marathon, I had to watch a Best Picture winner, and In the Heat of the Night fulfilled that category. Sidney Poitier caught my attention with his performance. In fact, I bought Raisin in the Sun from the Criterion Collection just because I'm so fascinated to see more performances by Sidney Poitier. But another performance that really impressed me was Rod Steiger's performance, and I ended up watching a few other movies with him in it this year. Both of them gave really amazing performances. This is a very racial-driven film where you see, unfortunately, the mistreatment of African Americans during this time period. There's a murder in town, and basically they see Sidney Poitier's character at this train station, and they automatically assume that he was the one who committed the murder just because he's African American. And the sad thing is, he's actually a police detective from another town. They don't know that, but their assumptions tell them that, oh, because he's African American, he's the one who did the murder. It's a Best Picture winner. It has amazing performances from the two leading actors. Why wouldn't you want to watch this movie?
Was Mr. Colbert ever in this greenhouse, say last night, about midnight?
Destry Rides Again comes in at number 3 for me, and it's a movie that I bought only because James Stewart stars in it. So Destry Rides Again is a Western film, and when it comes to me and Western films, I'm not the biggest fan of them. I really like some. I don't care for most of them. Destry Rides Again was kind of a shot in the dark with blind buying it, but I was very impressed with this one. James Stewart is the new sheriff in town, and he has the hard duty of trying to turn the town around from a crazy, disruptive town that lives by no rules to a town that actually follows the law and is fair to one another. Just watching the process of all of it go down was very entertaining for me, and you also see a lot of character development in several of the characters, which was also enjoyable. If you're on the fence about picking up Destry Rides Again, I highly recommend you pick it up because I really liked it. I mean, if nothing else, it's another James Stewart movie. Come on. At number 2, I have a movie that moved me so hard this year. I watched it because I was getting more into Sidney Lumet's filmography. That film is Failsafe. Failsafe is a heavy movie. In the movie, a technical malfunction sends American planes to Moscow to deliver a nuclear attack. The movie is about trying to call off the attack, and with it comes so much suspense. Sidney Lumet also directed 12 Angry Men, and while that's not the most suspenseful movie of all time per se, it is a very engaging movie that has your attention the entire runtime. And I would say that Failsafe is very similar to that. It also has very similar camera angles to 12 Angry Men, where it's looking up at the character or looking down on the character. The shadowing is spot on. Character sweat in the movie, and everything adds up to give you a suspenseful film that gets your heart racing while you're watching it. The premise is almost scary because you imagine if that could actually happen and how we would handle it if it did happen. And the final few minutes left me speechless. I'm not going to go into it because I want you to experience Failsafe for yourself, but Failsafe was an amazing first time watch this year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But coming in at number 1 is a movie that just recently was entered into the Criterion Collection, and it's a movie that I've seen 3 times this year. Before it was even announced as a Criterion, it is Parasite. Guys, what do I have to say about Parasite that hasn't already been said? It's so good. It's so freaking good. I feel like so many people have talked about it, so I really don't know what more I can say about it. I guess what I will say though is the rewatchability factor is totally there. I mean, I've seen it 3 times, and it's also such a fun movie to watch with friends because they never expect what's coming, and to watch them as the movie progresses, it is so entertaining. I am also still so happy that it won Best Picture at the Oscars. The first foreign language film to ever do so makes me so incredibly happy inside. Parasite is a movie that through the years, I think it will rank higher and higher on my all-time favorite movie list. Right now, it sits in my top 25 of all time, but I wouldn't be surprised if someday it cracked the top 10. Sometimes I'll just think about Parasite, and I'll just be like, why is that movie so good? It's like stupidly good, where it shouldn't be as good as it is, but it just is. Everyone else loves it too. Like, I think it's safe to say that it's a universally loved film. It's the #1 film on Letterboxd, and it's one of the highest films on the IMDb's top 250. It won Best Picture. It won Bong Joon-ho a ton of Oscars. It's a movie that it's been a year since it was released, and yet people are still talking about it. Just go to Letterboxd and you'll see that it's still being talked about. I love Parasite. I will always love Parasite, and it definitely deserves a spot for my favorite Criterion first time watch of the year. Guys, I appreciate you for your time, for listening to my opinions on my favorite Criterion first time watches. I watched a total of around 35 Criterions this year, and so this top 10 is coming from that list. Let me know what your favorite first time watches were. I love getting Criterion recommendations because it helps me know what to pick up at the next sale. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a great month. Make 2021 an amazing year. See you guys later.